Welcome to the True Crime Melting Pot, a podcast about true crime, serial killers, and all things in between. I'm Jess, your host of the podcast. Please like and subscribe to my podcast page, Facebook page, and Instagram. All links will be provided in the blurb below. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of my podcast. As stated in the intro, I'm Jess, your host. So again, very positive feedback from my last post. I'm so pleased that people are genuinely enjoying this podcast. I've had so much positive feedback from people that chose to come listen to me, so people that are close and also complete strangers that have come across my podcast. So it's been very good to hear all the feedback from everyone. Also, excuse any background noise this podcast. I'm actually recording this on location in my hometown, so I'm right near the beach. So if there's any background noise of waves and things like that, I apologise. So now for some exciting news, So I'm excited to introduce to you guys our first sponsor, Killer Trace. So Killer Trace is a monthly cold case subscription box that mail you police reports, evidence, crime scene pictures, clues and more for you to finally solve forgotten murders once and for all. They have also developed a case management system they have called N-File, which is only for members, on which you will be able to track your cases, send evidence to labs to be analysed, run fingerprints and car plates, request search warrants and even traffic videos. At the end of each case, you will need to send your summary report to court and hopefully the killer gets into custody. Not real, but definitely feels like it. You choose your own path of investigation. So if you guys go to www.killertrace.com and reserve your spot now. They are only accepting 150 investigators for the beta launch. You will receive your first case in a digital download form, mailing their first box on Halloween to beta users. So I know my listeners have what it takes to solve these cold cases. This is why I have chosen Killer Trace to be our sponsor. You can also follow them on Instagram at Killer Trace. That's KILLERTRACE. I'm excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor, so please give them a follow and go sign up today. So this week's podcast, I'm excited to bring you guys. This is the top of my top 5 serial killers. I'm speaking about the Zodiac Killer. I was introduced to this serial killer by the movie Zodiac, after hearing about it through that, and I just thought that this was so interesting and I needed to learn more about it. So I did a Google deep dive on this serial killer and then that was it. From then I was addicted. I have been so intrigued by this serial killer for the fact that it was never solved and he was taunting the media and public for so long with his ciphers that people just can't seem to crack. So I'm hoping to bring you a bit of a change in pace this podcast, with including some audio of the Zodiac speaking and other things like this. So let's get into the mystery that is the Zodiac Killer. So please again be advised that this podcast will include descriptions of torture and murder. If you do not feel comfortable listening to this type of information, please do not continue to listen. Listener discretion is advised. So the Zodiac Killer, or Zodiac, was a serial killer who began killing in Northern California from at least the late 1960s to the early 1970s. The killer's identity still remains unknown. The Zodiac murdered victims in Benicia, Vallejo, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco between December 1968 and October 1969. 4 men and 3 women between the ages of 16 and 29 were targeted. The killer originated the name Zodiac in a series of taunting letters sent to the local Bay Area press, whom he would continue to taunt until the letters ceased in about 1974. The letters in which the Zodiac sent included 4 cryptograms or ciphers, of the 4 cryptograms sent, only one has been definitively solved. People continue today to try and solve these ciphers and still no success. I know one of my favourite authors, Amanda Howard, whom I have asked the question to her if she has attempted to solve the ciphers. She stated that they have only managed to get San Francisco from one of the ciphers, but that's it. If you want to give the cipher a go, I'll be speaking about it a bit later where to find it, and I also posted on my Instagram one of the ciphers, so head over to TCMPP podcast, the Instagram page, and you can have a look at it on there. There are also so many conspiracy theories and many different suspects around this serial killer and who it may be. I'll touch on one important one later in the podcast. The Zodiac has been very prevalent in the media as well, with the movie solely made around the serial killer called The Zodiac, which I spoke about before, and this was with Robert Downey Jr. and Jake Gyllenhaal. We'll go into who they were, who they believe the suspects are, and also some weird suspects that may have been thrown into these conspiracy theories. And some of them include like American politicians and things like that. So the murders. So there are 5 confirmed victims of the Zodiac Killer, which I will be speaking about a bit more in depth soon. There were also 4 suspected murders that they believe could have been the Zodiac Killer due to the MO of the murder and the area in which they were done. I will speak about these also. So the first murder was the shooting of Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. This murder took place on December 20th, 1968 on Lake Herman Road, just inside Benicia city limits. This couple were on their first date and had plans to go and watch a Christmas concert at their local high school. Their plans changed though, and they decided to visit a friend before having dinner and then driving out to Lake Herman Road. It was approximately 10:15 p.m. when the young lovers had parked up at a gravel cutaway on the side of Lake Herman Road. This area was well known as Lover's Lane, a place where teenagers and young adults would park their cars to be alone with their lover, and you can use your imagination as to what they got up to here. Unfortunately though, on this night, it was not what they were expecting to happen. Now, from the Zodiac writings and the use of the available forensic data from the police reports, it was alleged that at approximately 11:15 p.m, another car pulled into the gravel cutout. One person got out of the other vehicle and approached David and Betty Lou in their car. David was shot once in the head at the point-blank range, and then it was believed that he was exiting the car when he was shot and instantly died. Betty Lou was shot 5 times in the back, believed to be attempting to flee the killer, and died instantly. The weapon of the murder was identified as a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. The couple were found by a local resident in the area who came across the bodies. There was no sign of molestation or robbery, and no witnesses to the murders. David was 17 and Betty was 16. This was the first date that Betty was allowed to go on. The second murder and victim was Darlene Ferrin and Mike McGow. So this attempted murder took place on the 5th of July 1969 in the parking lot of the Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. In this case, Darlene Ferrin was murdered by Zodiac and Mike McGow was wounded but did not die. Darlene and Mike were parked up in this car park. Mike had stated that they had parked up to talk. Another car pulled into the car park and then immediately left and sped off. The car then returned 10 minutes later and pulled up next to them only a few meters away. A man, which was the Zodiac, got out of the car and approached Mike and Darlene. The Zodiac had a flashlight. Mike had said he just assumed that this was a police officer coming to check them, so they began to get their IDs out to show the officer. So once in close range though, the Zodiac began firing his weapon into the car. After 5 shots rained into the car, Zodiac turned to walk away. Unfortunately, it was at this time that Mike made the mistake of crying out in pain. I have never been shot, and hopefully I never will be, but I would imagine it would be quite hard to keep quiet after being shot twice. So after the Zodiac heard the scream, he returned to the car and fired 2 shots into each victim. So this is where Mike believes he got a good look at the Zodiac. Mike identified the man as 5'8", 5'9", late 20s, early 30s, stock build, round face and dark hair. The weapon that was used in this murder was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, which was identified by Mike as the murder weapon. Both Mike and Darlene's murder was brought to the attention of the police by the Zodiac himself. The Zodiac called the Vallejo PD and told them that a murder had just occurred, and where the victims were, Zodiac then confessed to the murders of Betty Lou and David Faraday. So after this murder, on July 31st, 1969, the first of the Zodiac letters was sent to the San Francisco Examiner, the Chronicle and the Vallejo Times-Herald. These letters contained a confession to the murders which detailed that only the killer would have known, and one-third of a cipher in each letter that, according to the Zodiac, if solved, gave his identity. At this time, though, he was not identifying as the Zodiac, so the letters would continue for 5 years. I'll get into those a bit more detailed a bit later, and I'll speak about them after I speak about the murders. So the third murder and victim was Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell. With this murder, Zodiac changed up his method of killing. He revealed his disguise that a majority of the listeners may know him as. So this murder took place on the 27th of September 1969 on the shoreline of Lake Berryessa near Napa, California. In this case, same as the last, Celia was murdered, but Brian recovered from his wounds. So they weren't children, so they were teenagers. They were spending the afternoon on the edge of Lake Berryessa. The location they were was very remote, and not many people around it. And it was soon after they had arrived, Shepard spotted a man in the distance who appeared to be watching them. So he was hiding behind trees and things like that. And if you watch the movie, they act out this scenario as well. So worried, Shepard told Brian, and Brian brushed it off until the man began walking towards them. It was then when Shepard noticed that he was carrying a gun and wearing an unusual disguise. Hartnell described this as an executioner-style hood with clip-on sunglasses where the eye holes were. It was also identified that he was wearing a bib-like piece of material on the chest with a symbol that was similar to a crosshair on the side of a gun, a circle with a cross through the middle. This would be forever known now as the Zodiac, symbol of the Zodiac. So as the man or the Zodiac approached the couple, he threatened them with the gun and stated that he escaped from jail, had killed a guard and stole a car, and now he wanted another car because the car he had was too hot, as Hartnell accounts. So at this moment, Zodiac then tells Shepard to tie up Hartnell. Zodiac had brought pre-cut ties with him. Once this was done, Zodiac tied up Shepard. Zodiac then checked the ties, which Hartnell were loose, and he had tightened them. Then before they knew it, Zodiac pulled a knife from his person and began to stab both Shepard and Hartnell. Hartnell was attacked first, leaving Shepard to watch her boyfriend be brutally attacked, and Zodiac moved to Shepard to kill. Hartnell had 6 stab wounds and Shepard with 10. After completing this vicious attack, Zodiac then walked back 450 meters to the couple's car. With a marker he wrote on the car door, Vallejo 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 27th, 69, 6:30, by knife, which we now know is the dates of the previous attacks that the Zodiac had committed. He also drew the crosshair symbol on the door of the car. Now, the dates may sound a bit weird. That's because in America, they do their dates month then day first. Month first then day second. So, yeah, that's a bit odd. But anyway, Hartnell and Shepard were not found until sometime later, when a fisherman and his son were passing by and heard the screams of Hartnell. Hartnell, with this, summoned help from park rangers. When the couple were reached by help, Shepard was still conscious and able to identify the attacker. Once arriving at the hospital, though, Shepard then lapsed into a coma and unfortunately passed away 2 days later. Earlier that evening, though, at approximately 7:40 p.m, a call was made to the Napa County Sheriff's Office from a payphone to report the latest crime. The caller first stated to the operator that he wished to report a double murder, before stating that he had been the perpetrator of the crime. The phone was found still off the hook minutes later at the Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa by KVON radio reporter Pat Stanley, only a few meters from the sheriff's office, yet 43 kilometers from the crime scene. Detectives were able to lift a still wet palm print from the telephone, but were never able to match it to any suspect. So fun fact here, Ted Bundy related, subject of last week's podcast, was actually accused of being involved in these crimes. Not until 1989 were his fingerprints cleared of his involvement in this murder or attack. But the MO did not match Bundy, in my opinion. Bundy only attacked women and seemed to retreat when there was a male present, so I think that they blamed him just for the sake of having someone to blame. So the fourth murder was Paul Stine in the Presidio attack. This murder took place 2 weeks after the Shepard and Hartnell murder on October 11th, 1969. This murder took place in the northeast corner of Washington and Cherry Streets in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco, California. In this case, there was only one victim whom died at the scene. So Stine's cab was hailed from Mason and Geary Streets, with the intended destination being Washington and Maple Streets, near Presidio. For reasons unknown, the cab ended up at Washington and Cherry Streets, a block away from the original destination. Stein's wallet and keys were taken, and a large portion of his shirt was partially torn off. Or carefully torn off, sorry. Paul Steen was then shot once in the head at point-blank range. The weapon was a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. So 3 teenagers witnessed this happen, and they called the police whilst the Zodiac was still cleaning the car down. The teenagers then watched the Zodiac walk off towards the next suburb over. The teenagers described the Zodiac to the police as a white male, 25 to 30 years old, and 5'8 to 5'9", stocky build, reddish-brown hair worn in a crew cut, heavily rimmed glasses, and a dark clothing. They saw him casually walking on North Cherry Street. Unfortunately, the police dispatcher mistakenly, and I say this very, very sarcastically, described the suspect as being a black male adult. As a result, when the police officers minutes later observed a white man walking east on Jackson Street, he was never stopped or questioned. The police officers did get a good look at him, however. When the correct description of the suspect was finally broadcast, the officers realised they may have encountered him. So with no certain suspect, it was put down to the cabbie mugging gone wrong. With no certain suspect of this case, it was just put down to a cabbie mugging gone wrong. But on the 13th of October 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac containing a portion of a bloody shirt and taking credit for the killing. Zodiac would claim he actually spoke with the patrolman the night of the murder, leading them astray. So I'll go into that letter a bit later. This case was actually closed in 2004 and was met with outrage by retired homicide detectives, as the case was still unsolved, so you could understandably be pissed about it. Zodiac literally got away with murder. So now it's believed that there was one victim that was actually picked up by the Zodiac Killer and got away. So there is some controversy over this, and I'll get into it, but some believe that it was not the Zodiac due to the way in which the crime was confessed, where there was no detail really about it, but I'll recount the story for you. So this story was the cliche story you see in urban legend films, and the time where you were like, no, don't do that. I would like to hope that if I was ever to be in a situation like this, my knowledge of all things crime would kick in and tell me to do the opposite. So Kathleen Jones was driving down a highway in Petaluma, California in March of 1970. Kathleen was on her way to visit a sick relative. In the car with her was a 10-month-old baby, and she was pregnant also at the time with her second child. Whilst driving along this stretch of road, a car had come up behind her and began to flash his lights and honk his horn. At this point I would have kept driving, but unfortunately people in the time were too trusting. Kathleen then proceeded to pull over, and the car behind also pulled up behind her. A man stepped out of the car, allegedly Zodiac, and advised her that her rear tire was wobbling, and offered to fix this for her. Once completed, Kathleen thanked the man and got back on her way. It was a few meters down the road that Kathleen found out that the tire was not fixed, as it had come loose and flown off the car. The man again pulled up with Kathleen and offered to drive her to the closest service station to get assistance. Kathleen obviously thought nothing of it and got into the car with her 10-month-old. This was when things started to turn for Kathleen. Whilst driving, Kathleen noticed that they had passed a few service stations and had not stopped. When Kathleen would ask why they had not stopped yet, the man would change the subject. Kathleen then stated that this man had drove them around the dirt back roads of the suburb of Tracy for about 2 hours until Kathleen made the decision to get away. Knowing something was wrong, when the car stopped, at an intersection, Kathleen took the opportunity and jumped out of the car with her baby and hid in a field. The man searched for her using his flashlights, telling her that he would not hurt her, before eventually giving up. Unable to find her, he got back into her car and drove off. Kathleen found a ride to a nearby town, and then once at the police station, Kathleen spotted the Zodiac Wanted poster and frantically identified him as being responsible for the abduction. Over the next few days, San Francisco's major newspapers, the Chronicle and the Examiner, ran the story on the incident. And then on July 24th, 1970, Zodiac mailed a letter to the Chronicle, apparently taking credit for the crime. Now, there is some controversy attached to this case. So Tom Voigt, who runs the ZodiacKiller.com, which is where you can find all the ciphers, all the letters, all the information about the deaths, made this statement in regards to this case. So this is a quote from his website. "This case is a mess. First of all, while Johns claims her life was threatened, the police report tells a different story. In fact, of the 3 reports I've read, none detail any statements by Johns about being threatened in any way. According to Kathleen, the police officers must have relied on memory when preparing her reports, as they did not document any of her story while she was present. And even though Zodiac wrote a letter in apparent reference to the incident, he has uncharacteristically failed to provide the details that would have clearly established his involvement. If it truly was Zodiac who Kathleen encountered, his actual tally of victims might have been much higher than anticipated. However, the possibility exists that the Zodiac was merely attempting to take credit for the crime of another. So letters to the media and police. So these are the ciphers, and also the letters that he wrote. So as you know now, the Zodiac wrote letters to the media about the murders that took place. I'm going to go through the most relevant letters and read them out to you. So the letters do speak about the murders that I've just spoken about, and also things that the Zodiac was threatening to do. So with these letters were the ciphers also. The ciphers were like a code that the Zodiac sent for people to break that identified murders and also potentially identified him. So to this day, only one bit of the ciphers have been solved, as I previously stated. There are 5 ciphers all up. If you would like to have a look at these in detail, I'll leave the link in the blurb for your perusal, and you can go and have a go. So the first letter that was sent to 3 different newspapers, and it was dated the 31st of July 1969. It read as followed. Dear Editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl last 4th of July. To prove this, I shall state some facts which only I and the police would have known. Christmas. 1. Brand name of ammo, Super X. 2. 10 shot fired. 3. Boy was on his back with feet to the car. 4. Girl was lying on right side, feet to the west. 4th of July. 1. Girl was wearing pattern pants. 2. Boy was also shot in the knee. 3. Ammo was made by Weston. Now, with the 3 of these identical letters sent to the 3 different newspapers, parts of a cipher were also included. With the cipher he wrote on each letter, so here is a cipher that is part of one. The other 2 parts are being mailed to the other newspapers which he lists. I want you to print this cipher on the front page by Friday afternoon, Aug 1, 1969. If you do not print this cipher, I will go on a kill rampage Friday night. This will be the last whole weekend. I will cruise around killing people who are alone at night until Sunday night, till I kill a dozen people. The letters were ended with the Zodiac symbol of the cross with the circle with the cross around it. So the letters were also had poor spelling and grammar. So I'm reading at verbatim. So if they do sound a bit weird, it's just the way that it was written. So the cipher being sent in thirds was solved eventually, and it was littered with spelling mistakes and poor sentences, like I said. The final 18 letters of the cipher, though, were not solved. See if you can put together something from this. The cipher read as follows. I like killing people because it's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill. Something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or atop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. And then the final 18 letters were EBEORIETEMETHPITI. They were the final 18 letters, and they were never solved. So the next letter would come after the newspapers published the ciphers on August 4, 1969, but not on the front page. So, dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking. In answer to your asking for more details about the good times I have had in Vallejo, I shall be very happy to supply even more material. By the way, are the police having a good time with the code? If not, tell them to cheer up. When they do crack it, they will have me. On the 4th of July, I did not open the car door. The window was rolled down already. The boy was originally sitting in the front seat when I began firing. When I fired the first shot at his head, he leapt backwards at the same time, thus spoiling my aim. He ended up on the back seat, then the floor in the back, thrashing it out very violently with his legs. That's how I shot him in the knee. I did not leave the scene of the killing with squealing tires and racing engine as described in the Vallejo paper. I drove away quite slowly so as not to draw attention to my car. The man who told the police that my car was brown was a Negro, about 40-45, rather shabbily dressed. I was at this phone booth having some fun with the Vallejo cops when he was walking by. When I hung the phone up, the damn X thing began to ring. That drew his attention to me and my car. Last Christmas, in that episode, the police were wondering as to how I could shoot and hit my victims in the dark. They did not openly state this, but implied this by saying it was very well lit night. I could see the silhouettes on the horizon. Bullshit, that area is surrounded by high hills and trees. What I did was tape a small pencil flashlight to the barrel of my gun. If you notice in the center of the beam of light, if you aim it at a wall or ceiling, you will see a black or dark spot in the center of the circle of the light, about 3 to 6 inches across. When taped to a gun barrel, the bullets will strike exactly in the center of the black dot in the light. All I had to do was spray them as if a water hose. There was no need to use the gun sights. I was not happy to see that I did not get front page coverage. At the bottom of the last page of the letter, stated in capitals, "No address." The next letter came from the Zodiac to the San Francisco Chronicle, detailing the murder of Paul Stein, who was the cabbie that was murdered. It came on the 13th of October 1969. It went as follows. This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt. I am the same man who did the people in North Bay area. To the SF police they could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly instead of holding road races with their motorcycles, seeing who could make the most noise. The car drivers should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly, waiting for me to come out of cover. School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire, then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. Enclosed with this letter was the section of the bloodstained shirt that was cut from Paul Stein, obviously to give authenticity that he was the killer. So the next few letters that I will be reading is the Zodiac taunting the police and the media about what he is doing and what he plans to do. This letter was called the dripping pen card due to the small sentence that appeared to be written by a leaking pen or ink. So the letter read, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I thought you would need a good laugh before you hear the bad news. You won't get the news for a while yet. P.S. Could you print this new cipher on your front page? I get awfully lonely, and when I'm ignored, so lonely I could do my thing," with 5 exclamation marks. Then it states DES July, August, September, October equals 7. Another cipher was given with this letter to be printed in the local paper. So then the next letter came through on November 9th, 1969, and was deemed the death machine letter. The letter said, "This is the Zodiac speaking. Up to the end of October I have killed 7 people. I have grown rather angry with the police for their telling lies about me. So I shall change the way the collecting of slaves. I shall no longer announce to anyone when I commit my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, plus a few fake accidents, etc. The police shall never catch me, because I have been too clever for them. 1. I look like the description, passed out only when I do my thing. The rest of the time I look entirely different. I shall not tell you what my disguise consists of when I kill 2. As of yet, I have left no fingerprints behind me. Contrary to what the police say in my killings, I wear transparent fingertip guards. All it is 2 coats of aeroplane cement coated on my fingertips. Quite unnoticeable, very effective. 3. My killing tools have been bought through the mail order outfits before the ban went into effect. Except one, it was bought out of state. So as you can see, the police don't have much work to work on. If you wonder why I was wiping the cab down, I was leaving fake clues for the police to run all over town with. As one might say, I gave the cops some busy work to do to keep them happy. I enjoy needling the blue pigs. Hey Blue Pig, I was in the park. You were using fire trucks to mask the sound of your cruising per hour cars. The dogs never came within 2 blocks of me, plus they were to the west, plus there was only 2 groups of parking about 10 minutes apart, then the motorcycles went about 150 feet away, going from south to northwest. P.S. Two cops pulled a goof about 3 minutes after I left the cab. I was walking down the hill to the park when this cop car pulled up. One of them called me over and asked if I saw anyone acting suspicious or strange in the last 5 to 10 minutes. I said yes, and there was this man who was running by waving a gun, and the cops peeled rubber, and I went round the corner as I directed them, and I disappeared into the park a block and a half away, never to be seen again. Must print in paper. Hey pig, doesn't it roll you up to have your nose rubbed in your boo-boos? If you cops think I'm going to take on a bus the way I stated I was, you deserve to have holes in your head. Take 1 bag of ammonium nitrate, fertilizer, 1 gallon of stove oil, dump a few bags of gravel on top, then set the shit off, and will positively ventilate anything that should be in the way of the blast. The death machine is already made. I would have sent you pictures, but you would be nasty enough to trace them back to the developer, then to me, so I shall describe my masterpiece to you. The nice part of it is all the parts can be bought on the open market with no questions asked. 1 bat, power clock, will run for approximately 1 year. 1 photoelectric switch, 2 copper leaf springs, 2 6-volt car bats, 1 flashlight bulb and reflector, 1 mirror, 2 18-inch cardboard tubes black with shoe polish inside and out. Mirror, bus, bombs, 1 bag each, 6-volt bat, 6-volt bat. Bus goes bang, car passes by okay. The system checks out from one end to the other in my tests. What you do not know is whether the death machine is at site or whether it is being stored in my basement as we speak. For future use, I think you do not have the manpower to stop this one by continually searching the roadsides looking for this thing, and I won't do reroute and reschedule the buses because the bomb reroute and reschedule the buses. Sorry, this reading is hard to read. Because the bomb can be adapted to new conditions. Have fun. By the way, it could be rather messy if you try to bluff me. P.S. Be sure to print the part I marked out on page 3, or I shall do my thing. To prove that I am the Zodiac, ask the Vallejo cop about my electric gun sight, which I used to start my collecting of slaves. The next letter that the Zodiac sent was not to a newspaper for once. It was to a high-profile lawyer, or celebrity as the Americans call it, lawyer. It was the letter that was specifically addressed to him, and it read as follows. Dear Melvin, this is the Zodiac speaking. I wish you a happy Christmas. The one thing I ask of you is this. Please help me. I cannot reach out for help because of this thing in me won't let me. I am finding it extremely difficult to hold it in. Check, I am afraid I will lose control again and take my 9th, possibly 10th victim. Please help me, I am drowning. At the moment, the children are safe from the bomb because it is so massive to dig in, and the trigger mech requires so much work to get it adjusted just right. But if I hold back too long from No 9, I will lose complete all control of myself and set the bomb up. Please help me, I cannot remain in control for much longer. So the next letter received was not until April 20th, 1970, where Zodiac would return to sending letters to the San Francisco Chronicle. This letter was also accompanied by a cipher. This is one of the ciphers that was never solved. The letter read, This is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, you have cracked the last cipher I sent you. My name is, and then it had the cipher. I am mildly serious as to how much money you have on my head now. I hope you do not think that I was the one who wiped out that blue meanie with the bomb at the cop station, even though I talked about killing school children with one. It just wouldn't do to move in on someone else's territory. But there is more glory in killing a cop than a kid, because a cop can shoot back. I've killed 10 people to date. It would have been a lot more except that my bus bomb was a dud. I was swamped out by the rain we had a while back. The new bomb is set up like this. So there was a diagram in the letter, and the Zodiac drew words next to it saying sunlight in the early morning, bus, sun, A, B, string of bombs, A, car bat, timer, B, A plus B are photoelectric, switches when the sunbeam is broken, a closed circuit, B opens, which makes B the cloudy day, disconnect so the bomb won't go off by acid. P.S. What does that say? Sorry, the headed letters are really hard to read. I hope you have fun trying to figure out who I killed. The next letter soon after, the previous one that I just spoke about, this correspondence came on the 28th of April 1970. except that this time the letter was on a card and stated, "I hope you enjoy yourselves when I have my blast. Zodiac Killer. P.S. On back." This was on the back of the card. "If you don't want me to have this blast, you must do 2 things. Tell everyone about the bus bomb with all the details. 2, I would like to see some nice Zodiac buttons wandering around town. Everyone else has these buttons, like peace symbols, SVG, Black Power, Melvin eats blubber, etc. Well, it would cheer me up considerably if I saw a lot of people wearing my button. Please no nasty ones like Melvin's." The button that the Zodiac was speaking about was the symbol that he used to sign off on all of his letters. So the letter following was on June 26, 1970. Zodiac now had become displeased that no one was complying with the request of the buttons, and it reads as follows. "This is the Zodiac speaking. I have become very upset with the people of San Fran Bay area. They have not complied with my wishes for them to wear some nice buttons. I promised to punish them if they did not comply, by annihilating a full school bus. But now school is out for the summer, so I will punish them in another way. I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. It was then marked with a symbol and the kill count of SPFD equals 0 and then the Zodiac symbol and 12. The map coupled with this code will tell you where the bomb is set. You have until next fall to dig it up. This letter came with a cipher, which in turn will tell the police where the bomb was. This letter was also sent to the San Francisco Chronicle." Again, the Zodiac was obviously angry that he was not getting the attention that he wanted, resulting in the letter on July 24th, 1970. This is the Zodiac speaking. "I am rather unhappy because you people will not wear the same buttons. So now I have a little list, starting with the woman and her baby that I gave a rather interesting ride for a couple of hours one evening a few months back that ended up in my burning her car where I found them." So this letter obviously alluding to the attempted kidnapping of Kathleen Johns. It only took 2 days for the next letter to arrive, so on July 26, 1970, the San Francisco Chronicle received yet another letter. This one was more threatening and gave the vibe of a man that was becoming highly frustrated. "This is the Zodiac speaking. Being that you will not wear some nice buttons, how about wearing some nasty buttons, or any type of buttons that you can think up? If you don't wear any type of buttons, I shall, on top of everything else, torture all 13 of my slaves that I have waiting for me in paradise. Some shall tie over the anthills and watch them scream, twitch and squirm. Others shall have pine splinters driven under their nails, then burned. Others shall be placed in cages, fed salt beef until they are gorged. Then I shall listen to their pleas for water, and I shall laugh at them. Others will be hung by their thumbs and burned in the sun. Then I will rub them down with deep heat to warm them up. Others I shall skin alive and let them run around screaming, and all billiard players I shall have them play in a darkened dungeon cell with crooked cues and twisted shoes. Yes, I shall have great fun inflicting the most delicious of pain to my slaves." Again, there was another kill count, this time claiming 13 victims, stating SPFD 0, Zodiac 13. And it continued, "As someday it may happen that a victim must be found. I've got a little list. I've got a little list of society of offenders who might be well underground, but would never be missed. Who would never be missed. There is a pestilent nuisance who writes for autographs. All people who have flabby hands and irritating laughs. All children who are up in dates and implore you with I'm plat. All people who are shaking hands shake hands like that. And all third persons who with unspoiling take those who insist. They'd none of them be missed. They'd none of them be missed. There's a banjo serenader and the others of his race, and a piano organist, I got him on the list. All people who eat peppermint and pump it in your face, they would never be missed, they would never be missed. And the idiot who phrases with enthusiastic tones of centuries, but this in every country but his own, and the lady from the province who dresses like a guy, who doesn't cry, and the singularly or normally the girl who never kissed. I don't think she would be missed, I'm sure she wouldn't be missed. And that nice imprist that is rather rife, the judicial humorist, I've got him on the list. All funny fellows, comic men and clowns of private life, they'd none of them be missed, they'd none of them be missed. And uncompromising kinds such as, I can't read that word, whatchamacallit, thingy-me-bob, and likewise. Well, never mind, and tut-tut-tut, and what's his name? And you know who, but the task of filling up the blanks I'd rather leave up to you. But it really doesn't matter whom you place upon the list, for none of them be missed, for none of them be missed. P.S. The Mount Diablo code concerns radians and #inches along the radian. There was a quiet in the letters that came from Zodiac, so the next letter not being until October 5th, 1970. This was not a letter in a sense, it was more of a note, so there was 13 hole punches in the side of this note, thought to represent the victims, and then the note read, "Dear editor, you'll hate me, but I've got to tell you, the pace isn't any slower. In fact, it's just one big 13th. Some of them thought it was horrible. P.S. There are reports city police pig cops are closing in on me. Fuck, I'm crack proof. What's the price tag now, Zodiac?" On the 27th of 1970, in October, 27th of October, 1970, this card was sent to Paul Avery, who those who have watched the movie Zodiac would know become obsessed with the case. And also he worked at the San Fran Chronicle. So the card had a skeleton on the front and writing from the Zodiac on the back. The writing stated "Paradise Slaves," which was in the shape of a cross, and the A in Paradise and the A in Slaves cross over each other. "By fire, by gun, by knife, by rope, peekaboo, you are doomed, 14, boo," and then Z. Whilst this is believed to be from the Zodiac, his symbol was not on this card. So the letters then slowed, and the next letter did not come through until March of the following year in 1971, and it read, "This is Zodiac speaking. Like I have always said, I am crack proof. If the blue minis are ever going to catch me, they had best get off their fat asses and do something, because the longer they fiddle and fart around, the more slaves I will collect for my afterlife. I do have to give them credit for stumbling across my Riverside activity, but they are only finding the easy ones. There are a hell of a lot more down there, and the reason I'm writing to the Times is this: they don't bury me on the back pages like some of the others." At the end of the letter was his kill toll again, stating that he had killed 17 people, so SPF D0, Zodiac 17+. Again, a large gap between the letters, the next one not arriving at the Chronicle until January 1974, so which said, "I saw and think The Exorcist was the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen. Signed, yours truly." He plunged himself into the billowy wave, and an echo arose from the suicide's grave. "Titwillow, titwillow, titwillow. P.S. If I do not see this note in your paper, I will do something nasty, which you know I am capable of doing. Me," meaning the Zodiac 37, and SPF D0. So that was more like a letter to an editor just stating his opinion about The Exorcist. At this point, I think he had stopped and he was bluffing the police, but I'm not too sure. So the above letter was the final one that was received from the Zodiac, was determined to be from the Zodiac. There were a few others that were determined to be forgery and fakes. Since these letters there has been no correspondence between the Zodiac and the San Francisco Chronicle, which most of the letters were sent to, so there's been nothing since, and yeah, I'll get to that a bit later. So the TV interview, as well as making contact via letters to the media, Zodiac was thought to have made contact through a television show. He called in under the name of Sam. The Jim Dunbar show was where he appeared on. Also present on this show was the attorney Melvin Belli. I found a YouTube clip of the Zodiac allegedly speaking. I'll insert it here and have listened to the clip. It's about 3.5 minutes long, so have a listen and see what you can get from it. The clip is very crackly due to the age, so just bear with it, as it's the clearest I could find.
Zodiac, a symbol that now stands for terror in San Francisco. Today there was a possibly significant development in the terrifying case of the man who calls himself Zodiac and has boasted that he is responsible for 5 murders in the last 9 months. In Zodiac's latest letter last week, he threatened to make a busload of school children his next victims. Since then, school buses have been discreetly guarded, and parents' fears have openly risen. This morning, the people of San Francisco heard a man who claimed to be Zodiac talking on the air during a television conversation program with attorney Melvin Belli and the program's host, Jim Dunbar.
Get a kill.
That was the voice of a man who called himself the Zodiac Killer. He's talking to attorney Melvin Belli by phone on a television conversation show. This bizarre situation began at 2 o'clock this morning when the so-called Zodiac telephoned police headquarters. He said he was sick, he needed help, and he wanted to talk to Belli on television. All the scheduled guests were canceled from the show on the ABC station KGO. Belli waited for Zodiac to call on the private line. The phone was not tapped. The killer telephoned 12 times. He spoke very little, with attorney Belli trying to draw him out.
Jim said, well, maybe he's afraid of being beaten up or something like that. Now, what can I say?
Well, why don't we just ask Sam to tell us a little bit more about what he's feeling right now? Tell us about your feelings, Sam. You know, just tell us anything you want to.
And then we'll come back and I'll give you a specific answer to this question when you're going to the gas chamber. Stay with us so I can answer that for you. But will you attend on Jim just a minute and tell him what you're feeling or talk to us?
Just tell us what's going on inside you right now, Sam, please.
I have headache.
All right.
How long have you had those headaches, Sam? In a long time?
Since I killed a kid.
If it all boils down to the question of you're giving yourself up, if you could be assured that you wouldn't get capital punishment for myself.
I don't want to give myself up.
Huh?
I want to kill those kids.
Belli finally arranged to meet Zodiac in Daly City, a suburb south of San Francisco, to talk in person. The attorney waited in an office building, but Zodiac never showed. I asked Belli if he thought the man who called really was the Zodiac Killer.
I can't. Negative. I can't say. All I can say is this man needed help. This man seemed like a man who was coming up to a storm or to a climax, and this very blood-curdling thing. Children kill, and then a sort of an agonized cutoff, enough to turn your hair whiter than mine.
So inside the thrift shop, St. Vincent de Paul, attorney Melvin Belli and the San Francisco police waited for the Zodiac Killer. The man did not show, so now all we can do is wait perhaps for that next phone call from the man who calls himself Zodiac, who has killed 5 and says he's going to kill again. Dick Shoemaker, ABC News, San Francisco.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
So yeah, that was the clip from the Zodiac Killer. So yeah, take from that what you will. You could sort of hear that he was a broken man and needed some assistance. If it really was the Zodiac Killer, it was actually never determined. But let's get into some of the suspects. So with Zodiac came the thought of suspects. People are still to this day trying to attach these murders to someone. At one point the blame was being shifted to people like the Golden State Killer and even Ted Bundy, but I believe that they were just looking for someone to blame and say, hey, we caught the killer. One major suspect in this case was Arthur Lee Allen. On October 6, 1969, Allen was interviewed by police. Allen had been reported to be in the vicinity of Lake Berryessa when the attacks happened against Hartnell and Shepard on September 27, 1969. He described himself scuba diving at Salt Point on the day of the attacks. Allen again came to the police attention in 1971 when his friend reported to the police in Manhattan Beach, California, that Allen had spoken of his desire to kill people, used the name the Zodiac, and secured a flashlight to his forearm for visibility at night. According to Cheney, this conversation occurred no later than January 1st, 1969. Allen had received then an honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy in 1959, and had been fired from his job as an elementary school teacher in 1968 after allegations of sexual misconduct with students. He was genuinely well regarded by those who knew him, but he was also described as fixated on young children and angry at women. So apparently he had never had a girlfriend or wife either. So in September of 1972, San Francisco police obtained a search warrant for his home. In 1974, Allen was then arrested for committing lewd sex acts upon a 12-year-old boy. He pleaded guilty, served 2 years imprisonment. Vallejo police served then another warrant on his residence in 1991 when he passed away. And the Vallejo police sort of seized property from his home and his residence, but I couldn't find what resulted from that. Other evidence existed against Allen, so a letter sent to the Riverside Police Department from the Bates killer was typed with a Royal typewriter, which was an elite type, the same brand found during the search of Allen's residence. He owned and wore a Zodiac brand wristwatch, which they tried to sort of link to the Zodiac. He lived in Vallejo and worked minutes away from where one of the victims lived and from where one of the killings took place. So in 2002, SPFD developed a partial DNA profile from the saliva on a stamp and envelopes of the Zodiac letters. SFPD compared his partial DNA to the DNA of Arthur Lee Allen. DNA comparison was also made with the DNA of Don Chaney, who was Allen's former close friend, and the first person to suggest Allen may be the Zodiac Killer. Since neither test resulted in an indicated match, Allen and Chaney were deemed not to be, were excluded as contributors of the DNA, though it cannot be stated definitively that DNA from the Zodiac on the envelopes. However, as of March 2018, it was announced that the 2002 DNA sample was collected from outside of the stamp rather than behind it or from the envelope seal, meaning that Allen could still be a suspect. So that is crazy. So it was from outside of stamp rather than behind it. But there is notes that he had people licking stamps for him, and so there's a lot of conspiracy around it. So a retired police handwriting expert, Lloyd Cunningham, who worked the Zodiac case for decades, added that they gave me a banana box full of Allen's writings, and none of his writings even came close to the Zodiac, nor did DNA extracted from the envelopes on the Zodiac letters come close to Arthur Lee Allen. While police often use document examiners during investigation, court rulings on the scientific validity of the handwriting analysis have been mixed to negative. So this man appeared to be pestered his whole life by the police department and his potential involvement as a Zodiac Killer, even though DNA and handwriting professionals deemed that it could not have been him. He was seen as Zodiac by many police officers. His acts of crime did not assist him either with keeping him out of the public eye of the police. So there were also multiple other people named as potential suspects, and that a majority of them were ruled out with DNA or handwriting comparisons. I believe that there was a lot less blame this person to pin it on someone to calm the community. So there was a lot of just, let's just do this so we can just get rid of this crime. So as of 2018, the Zodiac case still has not been solved. People are still attempting the ciphers. You can have a look at the one I posted on our Instagram page, and also on zodiackiller.com, I believe, and it's still not being able to be solved. I believe in the theory, though, which I have gathered from my favourite true crime expert, Amanda Howard, that the Zodiac just got old and was not able to physically keep up with killing people, and just dissolved into society and eventually died. So in May 2018, so this year, the Vallejo Police Department announced their intention to attempt to collect the Zodiac Killer's DNA from the back of the stamps he used during his correspondence. The analysis by a private laboratory is expected to utilize an advanced new technique that is able to separate DNA from the glue present on the back of the stamps. So this is what they did to catch the Golden State Killer in America. They took DNA and put it through the ancestry websites like ancestry.com and stuff like that, and linked all the DNA all the way back through families and things like that, and found the Golden State Killer. So that was crazy to me. So hopefully they find something from that, and hopefully they can catch him. I would love to hear this be solved in my lifetime, so that would be great. So that's the end of podcast number 4, guys. I'm so happy that we've gotten this far, and I'm still thoroughly enjoying it. I love the support I'm receiving also. So don't forget to give this podcast page a like and comment if you enjoyed it. And also, if you're listening through the Apple Podcast, please give me a rating and a like. I would appreciate it so much. So it's just the stars, and you can give me a rating out of 5, and just leave a little comment about the podcast. So no matter where you're listening, just try and get on and give us a like. So also, don't forget to go and check out Killer Trace at www.killertrace, that's KILLERTRACE.com, or at Killer Trace on Instagram. Sign up and get your first case free, and get ready for their launch on Halloween, which is exciting. So this product is going to just grow immensely, so get behind it and be one of the first people to experience it. I reckon it'll be great for you guys to get behind. So thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you guys next week.